Hello and welcome. My name is Henrik Palmgren. A warm welcome to all our listeners from around the world. It is December and it is certainly cold up here in Sweden. I hope that you're comfortable wherever you are. And today we have author and investigative mythologist William Henry back with us on the program. It's been about 3 years, to the day almost, since we had William with us the last time. Far too long, if you ask me. If you're familiar with his work, you know that he's been doing a lot of research around the Stargate mythology. He's been busy in the fields of lost secrets, mystical symbols, and forbidden knowledge. His website is RIR-William.20. You can go there to find out more about his work and research and material. A little bit later in the program, I want to talk about some of his new DVDs, The American Right and Freedom's Gate, Decoding the Secret of America's Temple of Ascension. But I primarily invited William to talk about something that has been unfolding here in the north in the last couple of weeks. First, in Copenhagen, of course, this is still ongoing as we speak, COP15, the United Nations Climate Change Conference, and basically their plans to bring in a world government, if you ask some researchers out there. William wrote a very interesting article about this called Warning, the Apotheosis is at Hand. William also ties this in with a symbolic interpretation of the COP15 logo from a kind of Christian Gnostic point of view. But the story has also a very interesting extension as well. Shortly after, we had a phenomena that is now being called or dubbed the Norway Spiral. This happened around December 8th or 9th, I think, and it's been described as a wormhole or a portal, almost a projection that seems to be opening up. This happened way up north in Norway, in Tromsø. Was this a test of Project Bluebeam? Was it HARP? Or is it just what the official sources claim, a failed test of a Russian Bulava ballistic missile? This is what the Russian military now also says, but again, just keep in mind that the Russian military might have claimed responsibility for this anomaly just to quiet the inquisitive minds out there. This could have been requested by intergovernmental military forces simply to ask the Russian military to take responsibility for this. But we're going to talk about this and much more today with our guest, William Henry. So with that, welcome back to Red Ice Radio, William, and thank you for coming on the program again.
Thank you for having me, Henrik. I'm really thrilled to be here.
Excellent. It's very good to have you here, and it's been 3 years, but again, so much has been going on, not only your own research, but then we have these last couple of events that have been taking place here in the last couple of weeks, and as soon as I saw the article that you put up, I definitely wanted to talk more with you about it. Right now, it seems that the negotiations on the surface are kind of falling apart in Copenhagen at the COP15. Some people even claim that this is happening because it's designed to fail, to get actually people demanding more and quicker, not only to next year's summit. But share a little bit with us, William, from your perspective in regards to COP15 and what you wrote about in terms of the apotheosis, William.
I'll be happy to. Thank you. Normally, as I say in my article, Warning, the Apotheosis is at Hand, world government is here. I don't tend to write about New World Order, end of the world type topics. I had spent the weekend before that in Tempe, Arizona, lecturing with Dr. Stephen Greer, Richard C. Hoagland, and David Wilcock. And I guess I was kind of in that sort of frame of mind when I got home. And that's when I heard about this lecture, this presentation given by Lord Christopher Monckton. He had done this in Minnesota back in October, and it just didn't appear on my radar until this weekend after this lecture. And in this lecture, Lord Monckton gave a very chilling warning of the advent of world government, and he used what I thought was a very out-of-place word. It immediately caught my attention. He said, the apotheosis is at hand. Now, I've spent the past year and a half writing a book called Freedom's Gate about the lost symbols in the United States Capitol, in particularly focusing on the painting in the dome of the Capitol, which is called The Apotheosis of George Washington. So I've become a bit of an expert on apotheosis, which always refers to ascension, rapture, transformation, deification, glorification. And so when I hear Lord Christopher Monckton saying, the apotheosis is at hand, world government is here, I'm saying, wait a minute, time out. What are you saying? Are you using that word properly, or are you, as I sort of interpret it, again through the lens of Wilcock, Hoagland, and Greer, that this is an insider, if you will, telling us what's going down, that the apotheosis is here, and we need to really pay attention. So I started digging into Lord Monckton's speech and looking at this idea that perhaps the climate change conference in Copenhagen had more to do with the installation of a surreptitious almost installation of a world government than it had really to do with climate change. And so as I discussed in the article, if world government is here, and Lord Monckton is saying that the time is now for that, then is it possible, if you subscribe to Christian prophecy, and I'm certainly a researcher of that, is it possible if the New World Order is here, then is the so-called Antichrist who runs that world government and us, is that figure also here? And if that figure is here, what about those two witnesses that appear 1,260 days before the advent or arrival of the messianic figure and are there to give the Antichrist a hard time, but more importantly, to open the door for this messianic figure? And as I advanced further in my article, I brought forward some of my collection of images that show these two witnesses. They're believed to be Moses and Elijah, and they're portrayed in Christian art standing on either side of an open gateway that, to my eyes, and for years, has resembled what we today think of as a stargate or a wormhole. It's beautiful concentric rings that Jesus is portrayed standing in front of, and in other instances, he's actually shown traveling through that gateway, perhaps to other realms. And so I left it at that. And so I said in this article, well, if apotheosis is at hand, maybe we want to start looking for a wormhole to open sometime in the near future. And what do we know? 9 days later, on top of the Copenhagen conference, in a day before the arrival of President Barack Obama, a wormhole, a figurative, what a lot of people around the world interpreted as a wormhole, did open in human global consciousness, and it was virtually similar to the concentric rings that we see in these transfiguration images of Jesus. And so I'm left thinking, okay, I guess I called that one. I'm not calling myself a prophet, but it sure seems as if I somehow anticipated what was going to be happening at these events, and I had no idea at the time that that's what was going to happen.
So to you, does it matter if it was a failed Russian missile or not? Is this more about, do you think it's more about the way the human beings that we interpret this in our consciousness, so to speak, in terms of the fact that this is what we witness? We witness this spiral almost opening, and on certain videos that was captured, you can almost see the middle opening up as well, very quickly, apparently, like a black hole. And to me, it looks very strange if that indeed is the exhaust or fumes or something like that from a rocket. What do you think, William?
Well, I agree. And on your first point, I think it's absolutely phenomenal that we live now in a world, a quickened world, where millions of people can agree, yeah, a wormhole opened in the skies over Earth. Now, part of the problem with that is that one of the reactions to that was, yeah, hey, a wormhole opened over in the skies of Earth today. Hey, what's for dinner? You know, I mean, in the world press, it was like, oh, you know, this can't be, and a lot of people dismiss it. But the point is that we are now at a place where people would accept such a thing, Henrik. Imagine that. I mean, we have physicists like Dr. Michio Kaku saying we're 1 million years away from being able to open a wormhole. And I don't believe that, but let's just say that he's right, that we're 1 million years away from that. Well, then that would suggest that wasn't us opening that wormhole. It was somebody else. But I can't prove that it was a wormhole that opened there, just like we can't absolutely prove it was an out-of-control Russian missile that is responsible for this phenomena. I mean, Russia is saying, yes, we launched that missile, but they're not taking direct credit for the phenomena that resulted, the light effect. So we're left to wonder what exactly happened here. And so I have spent the intervening